Hi, my name's Andrew. I go by Droopy Viewers. I've been streaming on Twitch for about 3 years and have dabbled in a little bit of everything when it comes to the platform. And I've enjoyed the entire road thus far.
Shot him out of the air, boys! Let's get some hype and chat. How are you surprised, bro? I've never done this before.
I was never old enough or good enough when Tomb Raider came out on the PlayStation to get past the first level. So my brother and I would actually sit and watch my father beat all of the Tomb Raiders, and it was one of my favorite things to do growing up, to just watch my father play video games. You know, sometimes I let the gameplay lapse, and I'm there to hang out with the community, hang out with chat, and hang out with just about anybody who's willing to hang out. People are there for you, and I feel like I want to be there for them, so yeah. So I went and I was like, I'm going to break OBS and see what I can create. From about 2 weeks after I got my PC, I was able to start producing effects and transitions and things that I don't believe anybody else has thought of before. It's all about just coming up with new things, always staying on top, because you can be at the top, but any good story has, you know, the summits, the valleys, it has plot development. I feel like production quality needs to have the same thing. But there's one thing with Twitch and YouTube is that there's so many people in the world that these platforms are becoming saturated and you need to find a way to stand out. I always tell them, have fun with what you're doing. If you can't have fun, how are you expecting somebody else to have fun in your stream? Twitch isn't just about entertaining through gameplay and your voice now. There's a whole other level.
I'm N64Josh. I am a Nintendo podcaster, Twitch streamer, and also do some YouTube as well. And I keep up a Nintendo news blog at N64Josh.com. Oh, I've got nothing. Oh, I was able to do it! I can't believe it! I got a present for you. No, that's cool. I didn't need to use my shield.
Oh my gosh! I told you I was gonna kill myself with Sonic. I told you. I told you I was gonna kill myself with Sonic.
Thank you very much for meeting me today. I really appreciate you joining us. If we go ahead and get right into it, first question we have for you is tell us who you are and a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, right on. Thanks for having me. I'm N64Josh. I am a Nintendo podcaster, Twitch streamer, and also do some YouTube as well. And I keep up a Nintendo news blog at N64Josh.com.
Very cool. Yeah, I really like your blog, by the way. I got a chance to thumb through it a little bit. Your writing style is very accessible. I really enjoy it.
I think it's probably because of my simple mind.
No. It's very well practiced and kind of simplified. That helps a lot in this field, I'm sure. So if you could, Josh, thank you again for joining us. If we can just go ahead and get started and tell us a little bit about how you kind of got started in gaming personally. Like, when was your first gaming experience?
Oh boy. So this goes all the way back to the arcades and the Atari 2600.
Oh.
Yeah. So early 80s. My uncle was he graduated 86. I started kindergarten 86. So he kind of got me hooked. I remember playing Pitfall, Pac-Man, Asteroids, that kind of stuff. So that's where it began. And then it moved to the NES in probably 87, 88. I don't remember exactly, but my aunt got me one she got a family gift, right? And I was the one that reaped the rewards of that. So played, Mario, Duck Hunt. My parents weren't too keen on games that had magic in them or fighting. So thankfully they never read the instruction booklet for Mario where it says black magic turned all of the entire kingdom into blocks. Otherwise, that would have been a banned game. So, but yeah, lots of sports games with my dad. Mike Tyson's Punch Out, Tecmo Bowl, John Elway quarterback, that kind of stuff.
You basically played everything under the sun then in the early 90s, it sounds like.
Oh, I mean, here's the thing. Anything that wasn't real action based, so like RPGs, that kind of stuff, I kind of stayed away from. So like any of the Ninja Turtles games or like Street Fighter or the Star Wars games, Super Metroid was one of my favorites. You know, so I tended to stay towards more action adventure, or once I convinced my mom that fighting games weren't too bad, then I got some fighting games in as well.
Wow, I wish I knew your secret. We were never allowed to play like Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter when we were younger because it was just so raw fighting, you know. They're like, no, go play Zelda, that's fine. You know, go play Mario and the Toadstools, that's okay. But how did you manage to get the fighting then? No black magic, but, you know, punching people out in mortalities, that's good to go?
Well, I don't know. My dad loved Mike Tyson's Punch Out with me, which seems strange that, you know, but I guess it was boxing, so it was technically a sport, right? The year I got the Super Nintendo, my aunt got me Street Fighter, and I opened it immediately. Like, I opened the gift, and then I took the plastic off the cardboard, or, you know, so we couldn't return it. And so that was kind of that was like the, hey, we can't get rid of it now. And then, I mean, they just kind of, they lightened up over time. But, I mean, it was pretty strict, like 45 minutes a day, no playing games on Sundays. So I was an early riser. I was up at like 5, tiptoeing to the TV, you know, pulling the knob to turn it on because it was old school, right? And hoping the volume wasn't too loud from the night before, and trying to get some games in before the timer started.
Sounds classic. That's very much like the similar story that I got going, but on the 64. A little bit on the Super Nintendo as well, some NES. But you got mostly started on console then, it sounds like, in all of your ways. Is that kind of, if we can do a little flash forward, you're still on console to this day. Is that always kind of where you've been? Yeah,
there was a very, very small window where I played just a little bit of PC gaming, and I only played Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 and Aliens vs. Predator. But other than that, it's been
random game.
It's just been consoles. The 64 is one of my favorite consoles. Obviously, I mean, I'm wearing the shirt, like it's in the name, right? But then yeah, I'm absolutely loving the Switch and the library it has.
Yeah, I was just playing Switch last night. I'm still trying to make my way through Zelda. Getting myself off to the fourth beast. I just can't get away how nostalgic the game comes across from the N64 days, you know? Like, they really captured a lot of that magic and that feeling.
Yeah, even, I mean, just the way that game starts, where you're like, you're in a cave, and then you come out and you see the old guy with the beard. I'm like, this is like reminiscent of the original, you know? Like, I really, really love that.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw on your Twitch channel that you had the screenshot from the original Zelda. It's like, it's dangerous, take this. And like he gives you the old man giving you the first item in the game. So it's kind of funny that scene you mentioned, and it's straight up like on your channel now as an advertisement. What is that meaning to you? What is the significance of that?
You know, I mean, so Zelda was actually the first Nintendo game I played. I didn't understand what I was doing. We were supposed to be swimming at my grandma's house at a lake, and my step-cousin had the NES there. And so, like, I just remember walking in the cave, getting the sword. The sword was shooting. I was like, what is this? This is amazing. And then my mom was like, no, I bet there's magic in that. You're not playing it. So I've never even actually completed that first game. But even my business cards have that old guy, and they say it's dangerous to go alone. Take this, you know.
Wow, it sounds like the next thing for your stream to take over is go play that game through. You deserve it.
So I'm actually doing the NES Classic playthrough right now, and I just finished Castlevania, and I started the second one. We're just going in alphabetical order, so Zelda will be at the end.
Is that what you were streaming this morning? I saw that you were on playing some.
This morning I was playing, it's a new game called The Messenger. It looks like an NES game, and then it switches to from an 8-bit style to a 16-bit style. It looks like Ninja Gaiden. Very funny game. Lots of goofy dialogue and stuff. Pretty impressed by it.
Yeah, it looked like a great side-scrolling platformer type console game back from the early 90s or so. It's very, very nostalgic, but it's still like a modern game.
Yeah, just
Done in
launched.
that art style?
Just launched this weekend. So I think
Wow.
Thursday. So
Very cool. Well, we'll come back to that in your Twitch channel a little bit, just a second. But Josh, I think while you do Twitch and you do have a YouTube channel, I think you're probably most known for or are most experienced in your podcasting. Is that correct?
I would say so. Yes.
So what can you tell me a little bit about your podcasting experience? How did you get started? And tell me a little bit about your journey so far to get you here to the NPowerCast.
Well, I started podcasting about 6 years ago, and I wanted to have an online business, and so I went in head first. I built a website,
Cool.
did graphics. It was all about teaching photography. I started interviewing different photographers, and the very first podcast I was on that kind of got me to get the ball rolling was the I think it was called the Entrepreneur Dad podcast, and it was this guy in England. And I'm like, I don't even know why this guy wants to talk to me. I don't even know where he heard about me from. Like, I was just getting started in this stuff. And that got me to hook up the microphone and get the ball rolling. And from there, I kind of burned out on the photography stuff and was like, my passion has always been gaming. And so I started a website called N64Gaming.com. I thought it was going to kind of be retro focused. And what happened, I started the podcast and I launched in 30 days, 30 episodes. And so I would kind of batch record on Fridays. I would get all the interviews lined up and then just stagger them throughout the week. But what had happened, instead of focusing on like retro games, is I had all these indie developers that wanted to talk about. So the branding was just all jacked up. And so fast forward a little further, I was really getting into a game called Destiny, and
Heard of it.
yeah, maybe you guys have heard of it. And so I started. I interviewed the host of Guardian Radio, and it was like the first episode, and the second episode was Cosmo, who ended up being the one of the community managers for Bungie, and what had happened is he basically was like, you just need to get your branding on point. So I dropped all the N64 gaming stuff. Other than my Twitter, I left N64Josh alive, and then started TheLootCave.com, because that was a big thing in Destiny. You could go and shoot the loot cave, and I figured we've been going into loot caves since Zelda, so we'll just go with loot cave. It's very gaming. And so then I had the Lootcast, and that went for like 128 episodes. I got to go do it live at GuardianCon a couple years ago. The Bungie brought me out for the Destiny 2 reveal. Like, it was really, really exciting. And so eventually, once the Switch came out and Destiny was kind of dying off for me, I just kind of went full steam ahead right into Nintendo content. And it's been a little over a year and a half, and it's been crazy, but I'm absolutely loving it.
That sounds like a wonderful journey, by the way. Starting from a professional business desire to build an online business, and then going through the process, which, by the way, 30 episodes in 30 days is a monstrous effort. I can't believe you were crazy enough to try that. Did you hit all 30?
Oh yeah, no, yeah, we did. It went 30 episodes, and then after that month, I was like, that's when I had the interview with Mark. That was like, man, what are you really into, and get your branding on point. And then that's when I switched it up. So, but yeah, it wasn't really intentional. It just kind of, I was like, hey, let's just. I'm kind of that way. If I get an idea or I want to get something done, I just work. I just put my head down and work until the task is complete.
Yeah, like Gary Vee says, that's the real secret, right? Just work. It's not complicated. Yeah, gratitude, patience, awareness. Yeah, you seem like a guy that follows a lot of the similar type of entrepreneur spokespeople that I watch as well. I'd like to double that down a little bit sometime and chat with you about that. But with that, first off, the podcasting, GuardianCon. You were physically at GuardianCon. I had the pleasure of going last year to GuardianCon a couple weeks ago. It was my first time there. I stood a couple of feet away from Broman, and he made eye contact, and I was a little freaking out. I didn't realize, I was like, what do I say? What do I do? Did you have a chance to really get to know him or get to see him while you were a part of the event?
I didn't really get to talk to him. I talked to Githalion for a while, and
Okay.
I would consider pretty good friends with Kevin, K-Magic101, and well, I don't think he goes by that any longer, but we hit it off pretty good. He came on the Lootcast, and so it was a crazy time, hanging out with Dr. Lupo before he was as big as he is now. It's
he was there this last couple weeks ago as well. He's a really good character, really good sport, really kind and nice in person. You can really see that he carries the success he's got pretty well. It's pretty interesting to see. What made it, or rather, I know that you've kind of moved on beyond Destiny, so it was a natural thing to happen, but Guardian Con was just a little bit ago. The Destiny podcast was there. They're still deeply connected. I know Destiny 2 hasn't been that much of a standout as Destiny itself. Do you lament that at all? Do you miss being a part of that Destiny community, or are you really happy with the way that Nintendo has kind of welcomed you as well? Because to be brought out for the Destiny 2 event, that's a significant position to have.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I was involved with it for like 3 years. I was a part of another podcast that was called the Dads of Destiny, that then when I became one of the co-hosts, switched over to Aim Assist Gaming, and I feel like I've seen the ups and downs with the community. Guardian Con does something amazing. Like, I will always be behind that, and will share that and treasure that time I was there and everything. And it really goes beyond just Destiny anyway. But as far as just the game itself, I feel like it's one of those games that's just a constant work in progress. And at some point it might get there. But right now, I'm mostly just too busy. Right? When Destiny 2 just kind of didn't do all that great, and even though like the Lootcast and everything was Destiny related, it still was terrible branding. It was terrible. Nobody searched for the Lootcast looking for a Destiny podcast. I needed to, and so it's stuff I've learned along the way. It's all been excellent learning experiences, and it's helped me with my SEO and things like that on my current projects. But at the end of the day, we were just we were starting to get a little too salty, and it just wasn't enjoyable. So, my son's still really into it. If it hadn't been for Destiny, I wouldn't have got the NES Classic when they first launched, because my wife went to pre-order the game and they had one in GameStop randomly. And so I'm like, that's a pretty cool story there. And, so it was hard walking away from 128 episodes and leaving all that, because that was one episode a week. So I mean, that's a lot of time. That was a lot of time and commitment put into that. And so it's tough, but it's just like anything in life. Like, you take what you can get from it and you just move forward.
Yeah, it sounds like you've taken a lot of learning experiences from that. You've mentioned a lot of things marketing based that's not even necessarily stream based. The ability to rank your videos and the SEO value of the videos, even the branding of the naming conventions of your podcast itself, you've really seemed to have refined piecewise beyond just the act of engagement itself. But that still is a huge part of it, I'm sure, for you. How do you kind of strike that balance between the business improvements and the candor and conversational type improvements along the way? Or is it just kind of like, how do you balance that growth, so to speak?
So here's the biggest thing we hear it all the time. If you listen to any kind of like business, online entrepreneurs, Gary Vee, that kind of stuff, is they always talk about adding value, right? Mm-hmm. And so what I've always felt is a struggle for me is my passions are gaming, but how do I add value to an audience? I want to give more than just an opinion. Some people may value that, and it's fine. But I want to go above and beyond that. And so if I have a desire to teach, do that kind of stuff, but when it comes to gaming, what am I going to teach? So I had to get creative a little bit I do the Nintendo PowerCast on Tuesdays, and that is a conversation show with a co-host and then sometimes other co-hosts. And so that can add value just for people that are trying to get through their workday or whatever, just listening to people talk about games and the current news of Nintendo, that kind of stuff. But then on my Thursday show, I focus on whatever sales are going on for Nintendo, whatever games are releasing, and then maybe a community topic or a retro topic or something, something historical. And so I'm hoping that is adding value that way. And I've had good feedback from people saying, I love that you do the sales because I don't always look at the eShop, and I can make sure to snag a game that's been on my wish list or something like that. So and then as far as just naming shows and naming episodes, like I have another podcast called the Smash Bros Cast. When I looked for a Smash Bros podcast, I found one show and it didn't have Smash Bros in the title initially. So I'm like, well, this is going to rank immediately. And sure enough, as soon as the game reveal trailer, it all started taking off. And so but even that, I've refined things because I called my show the Nintendo PowerCast. Well, then Nintendo came out with the Nintendo Power Podcast, which ranks way better as soon as you type in Nintendo Podcast. I wasn't ranking for that on anything like Google or whatever. So I had to go in and change Nintendo PowerCast. It's still Nintendo PowerCast, but a Nintendo Podcast is followed up at the end of the title so that I will start ranking for that. And same as Smash Bros, it now says Smash Bros Cast, a Smash Bros podcast. And so it's all I'm always learning, right? It's just you just kind of look at things.
I'm taking notes. Very smart though. I like the AX podcast formula that you're adding there to kind of hook that secondary search term. That's pretty ingenious there. Is that an example you got from another podcast?
No, I just did it from when I started Googling Nintendo podcasts and I wasn't showing up, the light bulb went off, I was like, I'm not ranking for Nintendo podcast because I don't have Nintendo podcast in any of my titles, any of my, I like the way Nintendo PowerCast rolled off the tongue. That's cool. But unfortunately, it doesn't rank for anything because nobody's looking for that, right? They're looking for Nintendo podcasts. So I had to modify so that I would show up on Google for that. And so it's going to take time to get into the algorithm, but it's nice that you can kind of just pivot and keep going forward. And what's great is if somebody's wanting to start a podcast, they can use whatever their brand is, but then they can put whatever it is that they're covering as a podcast after the fact so that, you can rank in those search results.
No, I'm not necessarily. I know people know about the content creation and posting it. You have to tag, you have to name it right. But you kind of just mentioned something there about the iteration process, sort of the optimization over time. How flexible really are these posting areas with the updates? Like I know with YouTube, you post a title or a video, or when you post a video, you can update the title or some description, but you can't change the video itself. What limitations have you seen with that kind of optimization? Like what can you actually tweak in the process without having to re-upload your video?
I mean, like on YouTube, you've got your tags that are going to be important. Before you upload your video, you can actually change the name of it so that it's the same as your title. So that will actually help. Make sure your thumbnail is named the same as your title. And honestly, when it comes to tags and everything, you're just thinking of alternative ways people might search for your content. I'll give you an example. As soon as I moved into the house I'm living in now, I turned on my Xbox One and I got an error saying that the DNS servers will not resolve Xbox Live names. And I'm like, of course, I have no clue what this means. And it took me 45 minutes to find a solution where all I had to do was enter the Google DNS. And I'm like, well, if this took me 45 minutes, I bet if I make a video and title it the name of this error, it would rank immediately. And sure enough, the next day it ranked number 1 on Google if you type that error in. And so I literally get messages daily for that video for people saying you saved my life or it didn't work. Like you just never really know. To the point that Microsoft I even interviewed for a job with Microsoft because they found that video. Their support team used that video to help somebody solve this issue. And so it just boils down to titling your content for the way people are searching. Right. And so you may have alternative ways. And I often think when I'm searching for something, I type the laziest or the easiest way to get there. So another example, I do a lot of indie videos on my Twitch stream on Friday mornings. We do a first look. Well, I title all those videos the name of the game and then Nintendo Switch. And then my first tag is the name of the game and just Switch, because I know some people aren't going to type Nintendo. They're going to type just Switch. And that way it can hit both of those search results.
It seems like you've made a lot of correlations or a lot of analysis or a lot of decisions based off of these keyword uses in the search terms. Are you just going by your own intuition as far as to how these things are being searched for? Do you have tools that help you find this data that you're then using?
It's just my own intuition at this point. Like, it's one of those things that I've been trying to optimize stuff for so long that it's like, this just boils down to the way people search, right? Like how people are typing these things in. There are tools available. Some of them cost you money. For what I'm doing, it's not all that difficult, because it's like the title of the game and then the console it's on, right? So it kind of just solves the problem itself. For other things, sure, if I was wanting to rank for something specific like basket weaving or whatever, like I'd probably do some keyword research to find out what was the best way to rank for people that are looking for basket weaving tips or whatever the case is.
That actually is a really good point, though. You touched on keyword research for basket weaving, but I noticed that we haven't really touched on enough, or really yet, but you have a website, the N64Josh.com website, and you also have the LootCave website and a couple other, you have the Podbean, which is, I guess, is a collection of your podcasts, but there still seems to be a level of traditional SEO optimizations and keyword research and planning going on in your content. Is that right?
To a certain extent. But again, I mean, so here, okay, if you have a blog, the easiest way to find out how your content's going to rank is to download a plugin, at least on WordPress, called Yoast, and then it will tell you, hey, you want to make sure your title's ranking for this word, you want to make sure it's in the first sentence of the first paragraph or words, and then that your pictures are titled with that, or at least the alternate title has that keyword in it. And it will kind of break it down for you what to making sure you've optimized your post for those keywords. It's not necessarily telling you that this is how people are searching for it, but at least if somebody is searching for it, you're going to have a better chance of ranking because you've done everything that Google likes to get you in the algorithm.
Yeah, so that's definitely a good way to set it up on a website. I use Yoast on all of our projects as well. We are primarily internet marketing, web development initially. A couple of years back, that's how we got started. So this is kind of our core aptitude, but I don't usually find streamers or content creators that leverage those concepts in their content as much as you have. It may be a function of the amount of content that you've created, or the optimization efforts that you're doing have kind of led you into the same kind of concepts. I know your blog is probably the greatest learning experience there. Maybe? It's kind of hard to see kind of how you're focusing it, though. That makes sense. Like, you're doing it.
Right.
You're doing it, though.
Right. I mean, honestly, here's the way I look at it, right? Like you mentioned like Broman before, right? And he does like the Ask Broman podcast. And so he's going to have a lot of people asking him, how did you get to where you are? And he's going to give them answers. And then people will try to emulate that, but it's probably not going to work because that's what worked for him. Like we're kind of all on our own specific journey here, right? There's not just like a cookie cutter way to get your name out there and grow an audience. And so there's a guy named Pat Flynn who I listened to the Smart Passive Income podcast, and his thing was be everywhere. And so that's I took that and ran with it. So it's like I'm gonna have N64Josh is going to be everywhere. So it's my blog, it's my Twitch, it's my YouTube, it's my Vero, it's my Snapchat, it's my Instagram. It's literally everywhere. And then, I even have a subreddit, everything, just everywhere. And because I know how, it's not that this is necessarily like super cutthroat or anything like that, but there's oversaturation. So anything you can do to help yourself get your name out there and show up in a search result and maybe have something that can go viral. Like you know, what was crazy the other day, like Diablo 3 was leaked by Forbes, right? So I immediately threw up a post for on the Switch, right? And so I immediately threw up a post on N64Josh.com. Well, then somebody in my community posted it on a Facebook group that had over 50,000 people in it. Now it was shared like 200 and some times, had over 8,000 views on it. And that was crazy. But it was like that's the kind of stuff that I'm like, I want to be prepared. So if something like that happens, I'm able to have a piece of content that could potentially go viral, or at least let more people see my brand and then hopefully connect with me.
That seems to really coincide with your initial podcast approach. Again, the 30 episodes in 30 days, you're kind of just putting out as much content as you can and doing the best you can to optimize it along the way and just hoping something catches and takes off, versus the surgical strike type approach where you do super research on one video and hope it ranks and maybe or maybe not. Is this always been your approach, or is this kind of a newer thing that you've just kind of developed over time as you've become more organic in your streaming? I
think it's just kind of developed over time, and the reason, part of it is I look at Twitch, right, which was I would say kind of an end goal at one time, like to get partnered and, you know, maybe go full time, but like it's so saturated that in order to grow, my podcast has been the greatest asset for growing my Twitch stream, because otherwise, like you ask a partnered streamer, what's the number one key? They'll always say consistency. Well, consistency is great, but I can show you thousands of streamers that are consistent that have zero growth, because they just sit at the bottom of a directory and they're not grabbing clips and sharing them on Instagram and Twitter. They're not doing anything to allow their content to be shared. And so I have so many people that show up in my stream and go, I listen to your podcast, I love it, never been to Twitch before, right? Which to me is important, because if they've never been to Twitch before, they're not coming from someone else's stream, which means it's adding more people to Twitch as a whole, which to me is a good thing. Because if we're just all sharing the same viewers, it's not a great business model for the streamer, right? Like, so the more new people I can bring in, the better.
So instead of trying to siphon off other people's channels with similar structured content, you're trying to create a community that then pulls it in from other places. And Twitch just happens to be the streaming platform you're using right now. Is that a good way to kind of say it? Yeah. That's very platform agnostic as well. I can't get over the amount of attention to detail you're paying to some of these Pat Flynn type people. I mean, Gary Vee says all the time, if he spends like an hour making content, he'll spend the next 7 hours distributing the content. You know, and in your A Gamer's Guide to Podcasting PDF, by the way, thank you very much for sharing that with me. That was a great piece of work. I enjoyed reading the content that you pulled from the other podcast or the other content creators, and then your own addendum at the end, the lessons that you've learned. It was really insightful in a lot of ways, and actually probably was going to impact the way that I even run my own podcast coming up. You've already said a couple things. I don't know if you've noticed, but the name of this podcast is the OPSEAT, which is a pun off of the OP naming convention in a podcast, but it sounds funny. But it's clever, but it doesn't, I don't think structurally will hold up in search engines in the manner that you've been referencing, you know? I'm also coming across phonetic issues as now we're coming across to how does your brand sound with voice search and stuff. So there's a whole other tier of that kind of structure. So you've really opened up some insights into that. But this is, again, the reinforcement of the model of like be everywhere, putting out a PDF and an MP3 for an ebook lesson plan that you've learning. You don't have to do that. What led you into the path of teaching something, making podcasts on something, making blogs on something? Where's the limit for you? Or is there a limit? Or is it all just part of the same kind of approach for you?
It's all part of the same kind of approach. I mean, like I said earlier, I love teaching, and I had so many people asking me, hey, I want to get started in content creation. Hey, I want to do this. And to me, the podcast is the easiest thing to start with, because literally if you have a phone and a $15 lapel mic, you can download Podbean and start recording podcasts right now and uploading them. And and having content that people can consume while they're on the move. That's the other thing that was important to me, because I learned so much from listening to podcasts while I was working that it is, to me, it is one of the most important forms of media there is, because it allows people to learn or be entertained while multitasking versus a YouTube video or a Twitch stream, that kind of thing. And
yeah, I
so,
think I've heard it referenced as passive media intake.
Yeah,
where
and
the
it's
video, you have to watch it. You know?
Exactly. And I'm not much of a consumer of content. I don't really have time to. But when I'm at my regular 40-hour-a-week job, I'm listening to audiobooks, I'm listening to podcasts, and of course mixing music in too, because sometimes you just got to let your brain, like, it can only absorb so much, you know.
It kind of melts together a little bit for a while, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's this Einstein quote I like about how he obsesses over learning all the information, and then he just sits back and thinks about everything he learned. He doesn't try to find a solution. He just kind of hoards the info and then just sits back and lets it kind of show the solution to himself. So I like that idea of just like overwhelming the info, then sitting back, put on some music, being like, all right, what did I get out of that?
Yeah, and that's kind of what it is. Like, how can I take action with this, you know? And then once I've implemented, like, okay, let's go back and learn more, right? And then just keep adding to that arsenal.
So 2 questions. Go ahead.
No, that's fine.
I was going to say 2 questions out of that with podcasting. I want to know, what's your favorite podcast? You mentioned Pat Flynn and Gary Vee, but what is it that you watch right or listen to right now that's kind of helping you in your profession?
I honestly, I've been listening to Gary Vee a lot recently. Like, I hadn't really listened to much of his podcast. I listened to the 4-Hour Workweek like probably 3 or 4 years ago. Pat Flynn was the main one I listened to that kind of got me going on just internet business and marketing and that kind of stuff. I stumbled upon the blog Millionaire podcast, which sounds like a super cheesy name, but the guy puts out really, really good content and stuff that you would probably see most people selling. He's putting out for free. So like, if you really want to learn how to get your website to rank, he'll teach you, like, go in, buy old websites that used to rank really high on Google, and then put links back to your current site, and you will start ranking higher in Google like almost immediately, you know?
I tried that a couple of years ago, actually. So that's a really great technique. Yeah, we followed some people. Smart Passive Income was one of them. And that's buying old domains, beefing them up again, and then kind of siphoning off some of that SEO juice was great, until one day Google decided that that's not a cool thing they want to do anymore, and they wiped like 80% of the websites that do it off the internet all in the same day. So we had a network at the time of about 80 of these websites, and like 73 of them were taken offline in one afternoon. It was a slaughter fest. And so we knew people that had lost tens of thousands of them. Great technique though. Structurally speaking, it did work very well. But the concept still though is there though.
Yeah, this is a recent show that he broke it all down, and it was only one part of the overall how to get your site to rank. Like, it's all really good stuff. Whether you want your podcast to rank better, whether you want anything really. I mean, he really lays a lot of stuff out. And the thing is, the guy was on his deathbed. I think he had terminal cancer or something like that, and he ended up kicking it, and kind of just gave him a new look at on life. And then he started putting out a blog that started making him money, and then he's just been sharing how he's been doing it.
Wow. That really reminds me of the Pat Flynn story as well, and how he learned how to help people with the STEP exam. He wasn't even making money off of it, and then it wasn't until he was helped enough people and he monetized it, and people just giving him money like, dude, you helped me so much, thank you. It sounds like a very kind of comparable story. It sounds like you really like a guy called John Lee Dumas as well, an entrepreneur on fire. Have you heard of? He's a similar type story. Yeah, one of my buddies got me into him about 5 or 6 years ago. He had a login, and he's like, "You gotta check out this guy," and I was like, "Scoot over, give me the login," and I just like watched all of his videos. It sounds like you're learning from all of the best. Absolutely. Have you read any of Gary Vee's books yet? Thank You Economy, Jab, 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 Right Hook. Crushing it. Any? Yeah. Well, that's fine. Yeah. No, he was on it with long form content way before other people were, for sure. I also am a 4-hour work week disciple. I picked it up probably about 9 or 10 years ago, and when I was still in college, and we've executed a lot of the structural techniques. Fun fact: the warehouse that we use for OPSEAT is actually pulled directly out of the 4-hour work week. It's one of the several that he recommends that you use. So we actually open up the book, pull it out, we're like, "That's the one. All right, we'll do it." So there's a lot of great content if you follow him directly. Yeah, small world. So then you touched on a little bit like that you still do work a 40-hour job where you're learning on the job and doing all these things in your downtime. Props on you. That's a huge hustle. How many hours in a week are you still applying to your content generation?
Well, I just recently started, so I get up at 3:45, and I did that to be able to write that podcast book and to write news articles. And then I was like, I want to get a little more consistent with streaming. So I start my stream at 4 a.m. I stream till about 5:30, and then it's not a long stream, but at least it's every day, 5 days a week. I do 410, so I'll work, like Mondays I'll work, get up at 3:45, stream an hour and a half, work 10 hours, come back and stream 4 more hours that night. I'll do an interview. I do a fun little interview with community members called Gamers in Carts Getting Interviewed, and we'll play Mario Kart, and we'll do 12 races, and I'll just ask them questions about their history with Nintendo and things like that. And then that'll go up on YouTube.
Great idea.
And then Tuesdays, same kind of deal. At 6, I start the podcast. We do it live, and then I'll keep the stream going while I'm uploading the YouTube video, the podcast, and writing the blog post, and then might stream something else for another hour or two, and then I'll go spend some time with the fam, and then Wednesdays is just the occasional stream on Wednesdays in the evenings, but I get the morning stream in, and then just my normal 10-hour day. Thursdays, I do the second show at 6 p.m., which is about a half-hour show. So in about an hour and a half, I can have the podcast up and done. And depending on what the family's doing, I might stream longer. And then Fridays, I get up, I do my morning stream. And a lot of times right now, it's just been like my daily Fortnite stuff since it's on the Switch. But then starting at 6 a.m. on Fridays, we do a first look where if indie developers have sent me new games, I will look at those, and then I record that as a video that goes up on YouTube. And then I'll stream a good portion of the day Friday until about 2, and then we record the Smash Bros. Cast, and then we'll play and stream Smash Bros. After that. And then Saturday mornings I do classic games. Right now I've never beat Mario 64, so go ahead and judge me. Everybody does. And then so I'm playing through that. I'm at 47 stars and playing through the NES Classic. And so we've done a handful of games that just needed the high score, and then I've completed Castlevania and diving into Castlevania 2. And then Sunday nights, depending on what's going on Sunday, it's just kind of a random day. Sometimes my wife will stream with me, and we'll do like Overcooked or Animal Crossing, just kind of whatever she's in the mood for. We've been gaming together since we were dating, and today's actually our 19-year wedding anniversary, so kind of cool.
Congratulations. Wow, 19. That's amazing. How does she allow you to stream so much in a week? She is a saint.
Well, I really try to be intentional with my time. So if we're together, like maybe try to get the phone. Sometimes I'm not always great with this, but try to keep the phone away so I'm not on my Discord, not on Twitter, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it gets me.
She is super supportive. She probably believes in me more than I do sometimes, and so yeah, I'm just super blessed. That's the best way I can put it.
No, it sounds like you've got a really understanding wife there to be. I mean, you hustle. What you just told me is a really hard workload for any person, even without your 40 hours that you mentioned already, that's just a monstrous success as far as the hustle is concerned. How long have you been able to achieve this level of hustle?
Quite a while. I mean, probably at least 6 months getting up that early. You know, before I would just get up at 5 and just go to my job, but now it's probably been about 6 months of just. I think I heard somebody talk about getting up early, and they mentioned like Tim Cook or whatever from Apple, and I was like, I gotta just do this. Like, I'm leaving time on the table just sleeping. Mm-hmm. So here's another thing, just because it probably sounds super unhealthy. I do intermittent fasting, which your body doesn't need as much sleep when you do that. And so, you know, sometimes I eat just dinner. At other times I'll eat at 2, between the hours of 2 and 8, and then that's it. So that allows me to not have to have as much sleep. And a lot of people in my community just think I'm a robot. So that may be the case too.
Yeah, a robot or a monster. I don't know. You're not from this world, though. That's impressive. How's the fasting going for you? Have you noticed an improvement in your body structure and type? How's it working out for you?
Because I still don't have the healthiest eating habits. I'm just not getting fatter. How about that?
Hey, that's good. You stopped the blow. That's good. I take it. I've been trying intermittent fasting as well. The whole like don't eat before 2 and finish eating before 10 kind of deal, and keeping your portion size down. Like actually, like I was blown away by how my actual portion size had bloated up. Like I was eating like, you know, you get those packages in grocery store and it's like serves 2, and you're like, serves 2, serves me. And so like that was happening a lot. I didn't realize. Yeah, exactly. I got one in my fridge right now. I'm pretty sure I'm just going to crush to myself. So like that's a little bit of a struggle. But overall, I mean, I think it's been helping. I don't know if I go into ketosis or anything like that. Do you measure it as far as... I know if you go like real intermittent fasting and stuff, like there's you're measuring your blood for various triggers. Do you go that far, or are you just kind of like, I'll keep my schedule 10 and 2. That's good.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah,
and it's just wanting to get more veggies in.
Okay,
that's
good.
the goal right now, is just to get more veggies in.
Yeah, well, anything we can do to get to a healthier life, that's good.
For sure. Well, I have
so
4
like
kids.
Business model. If 4 kids, whoa.
Yeah, I got 4 kids. Like I got to keep up with them, you know. So.
How old are your kids?
The youngest is 10. The oldest is 17.
17, he can drive already. So he's giving you a challenge on your games then. He's not just playing with you anymore.
He mainly plays Fortnite, and he plays Fortnite very well. Like he sometimes makes more money than I do playing Fortnite doing wagers. So he's really, really good. So
is it hard to split the bandwidth with your son?
Thankfully, where we live, we have fiber, so 150 up, 150 down. We're good. We have there's sometimes 3 or 4 people streaming at once in my house, because sometimes my daughters will do like Instagram live streams. Both my boys will be streaming Twitch while I am, and my wife's watching The Bachelor on YouTube TV or whatever, you know. So far it's been okay.
What incredibly modern structure for a family to all be content creators in the same household underneath the same bandwidth account. That's phenomenal. What is it? What's it like being a streaming family? That's got to be unique right now.
You know, I think it is. I mean, it's probably one of the neatest things about it is like trying to navigate all this stuff is a little bit odd myself, right? And as a streamer, you see all types of people. You see people that may be struggling with depression or things like that. And so my son even deals with that. And so it's nice that he can come to me and I understand what he's talking about. And I can maybe tell him like, hey, maybe we need to set up like suicide prevention numbers in your Nightbot so that people can see if they really need help. They can contact the right people so that it's not all falling on you. Because it's a tough thing to deal with. For anybody, but especially a 17-year-old kid. And so it's all kind of uncharted waters, you know. Like so, it's nice that we have a real open relationship. We talk about streaming, and just I really encouraged him to start getting their own businesses off the ground and looking for these alternative ways of making it in life versus just the typical like, you know, go punch a time clock for 40 hours a week. And So even to the point that I'm like, hey, you need to start listening to Gary Vee. Like I want you to be learning and taking some of this stuff in. So
what a good father, pushing those independent principles so young. I mean, it took me all the way through college before I even came across these concepts and the type of people doing it. What an advantage. Your son must be a different breed than his friends at this point, structurally, competence-wise, through streaming. I mean, to be making money on Twitch at 17 and be debating the values of prevention hotlines, he's going to be something else in a couple of years. He already is. You've got to be a very proud father. Yeah, how do you balance the privacy concerns, I'd imagine, that would come up in this? Doxing, IP threats, attacks on your home. There's so many opportunities for you, specifically being in the forefront of this, kind of exposing your life. How do you manage the safety concerns that may arise for your family?
I mean, with them, it's just a lot of like common sense, like don't mention your real name, your address, that kind of stuff. And I have as much setup as I know how to. There may come a time that we have to evaluate it and check. My websites point to they don't point to our direct address, that kind of stuff. Just make sure to take those kind of steps. But so far we're all just kind of on the grind, so we're under the radar of anybody that really hates us yet that we know of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's so new. There aren't really that many policies set up or structural things you could follow. It really is just kind of go as you go and do your best not to dox yourself, I guess. That's what a modern structure. I'm really, really proud of you to have the strength to allow your kids to stream while you're streaming, and your wife. Like, it's special, I think, to not only do that, but then to do it with a business structure background. So they're not just playing games. They're learning how to build a business.
A lot of it boils down to, I just don't want them to end up like me, like doing something that they hate, and so I'm just I'm just trying to push them, and it's difficult, man, because you don't know what the future holds for them. You want the absolute best for them, and you're like, hey, this is a risky way to go. Like, if you build an audience and you can add value and sell merchandise and Twitch subs and bits and everything else, like, there's the potential here. But like, we don't know what the long tail is. So like, I want him to be as pretty diverse and have as many irons in the fire as possible, to where it's like, hey, if you're really good at Fortnite, let's start making some videos on how other people can improve, and maybe we can put those up on a site that allow people to buy them, and then you can have affiliates so that other people are making money from these things too. That's the other reason, like my book, the podcast book, like, it's hard. Like, Twitch is an amazing platform, but they take half your revenue from subs and stuff, right? So that's why I love you guys. I love your chair. You guys have an amazing product that is affordable, and it sells itself, right? Whereas, like, I used to look at some of the other, like, your competition, and I'm like, even to get sponsored by that, how many people are buying these, and then how many people are buying them and having to go into debt for them, which is something I don't necessarily want people to do either. And so I want to be able to create digital products that allows other gamers to promote something that they can believe in and earn revenue from it. So I'm currently writing a book called Another Castle, and it's basically the life lessons from Super Mario. And there's so much about, like, to give you just a quick little snippet from it, like the whole Another Castle thing. Like, as entrepreneurs, as just humans, we set goals, we try to reach a goal, and sometimes we think we've accomplished that goal, rescued the princess, and it's a toadstool saying, sorry, but your princess is in another castle. Sometimes we climb the mountain only to get a better view of the next mountain. And so that's kind of the gist of this book that I'm working on, that it's going to deal with a lot of stuff that's just personal with me, like my mental health and things like that. And so I'm excited to be able to put this out there, and then hopefully other people will get behind it and they'll want to help me promote it as well. And it ends up being a win-win for everybody. And I'll do it like I did my podcast book. I'll record the audio of it. I might even do some like video segments or whatever and sell just multiple tiers so that people can get the most out of it no matter what price they can afford.
That's an awesome name for a book. B, a great way to interpret the hero's journey through both a video game and an entrepreneurial struggle. I love the concept. Is there an estimated time when this is going to be released, or are you still kind of working through the content?
I mean, I'm hoping for this fall. I'm about 50,000 words into it already. So it has a good chunk, but I feel like I've learned a ton over the last couple months that I want to remove certain aspects of it and really kind of the first draft's almost complete. And so, but now I want to kind of go back and refine it and get it to where I can make it more about my story, but still make it applicable for others as well.
Well, I really look forward to the read. 50,000 words. How many pages does that come out to be?
I depends on how big your font is and everything. Like I haven't looked at it in a while. I think it's sitting around like 15 pages, but I have it pretty small. The font's pretty small at the moment.
I cannot count book words apparently. That sounds cool though. Digital ebook being released, video structured lessons, kind of goes in with what you said to your son about get ability for people to pay to kind of learn a little bit. That was our first business as well. Paywalled World of Warcraft educational videos behind a WordPress site. Pay $10 a month, get subscription to videos. They would be released periodically. It works really great. If your son does that, let us know. We'd love to share it. That's pretty cool. I'd have to ask, you've been so involved in podcasting for 6 years. You are yourself a jack of all trades now in the gaming niche business structure online. You do have a concept for, tutorial videos behind paywalls, content generation, and ways to make money through affiliates and things like this. What is your opinion on kind of where we are right now in the podcasting niche and kind of where that's headed in the next couple of years?
From what I know, it's still the best place to go to. It's the least saturated. What I don't like seeing as much is there's so many celebrities putting stuff out now that it's like, come on, you guys already got the you've already got Netflix and Hollywood and everything like that. Can you just cut us a break here? But I mean, it just forces you to work harder and to make sure that your stuff ranks and that that your name is what people are going to be searching for so that you can be found. And it's a medium that is underutilized right now compared to Twitch, YouTube, that kind of stuff. There's still a lot of podcasts that could be out there and that people will consume. I mean, you have no idea how people will consume. Some people drive 3 hours a day for work. The job I worked, I listened to podcasts literally 10 hours a day. Like no joke, 10 hours at least a day. Well, that's a lot of shows in a week, right? That's 41-hour episodes. So I mean, like to think, oh, nobody's going to listen to, like, you have no clue. If you're passionate about something and you can put out quality content about that topic, you're going to find a community around it. And even if it's super niche and you just, it's not, it doesn't have to necessarily be a business thing. If you just want to build a community around a topic that you're interested in, do it. Like, just start doing it. The most rewarding thing has been my community since getting into Nintendo. We all hang out in my Discord and they'll come and hang out in streams and everything, but like getting to know these people and having real conversations. And I'm active in my Discord, which I hear a lot of people come in and they're like, is this a bot that said hello, or is that actually the host of the show? And it's like, no, it's actually the host of the show. Like, I'm not, like, I know there's going to come a time that if it grows big enough, that's not going to be as easy to do. And so I'm actually cherishing that right now because, like, we're a pretty tight-knit group that, like, sometimes there's stuff in life that we talk about in Discord that's like, people are like, whoa, this is a little deeper than usual. But it's like, hey, like if I can add value in any way, if somebody wants to open up about what they're dealing with and we can help them, solve it or whatever the case may be, like, it's just a real chill and welcoming environment. And people say it's a change of pace from what they're used to with a lot of Discords. And so, and that all came about from the podcast. The podcast was that was the center. That's where it started. From the podcast grew the Discord, grew the Twitch, everything else.
What would you say to somebody who would want to start a community like you have? Like, what would be the one piece of advice to help them get started the quickest? Save them the most trouble, maybe.
I don't know that quickest is the word I would tell anybody, honestly. Like,
it takes forever.
It's gonna take time. Like, just be patient. I mean, I streamed for one person, and look, I was the TheLootCave on Twitch up until a year and a half ago when I switched to N64Josh. Like, I had the account, but I never streamed on it. I left 800 followers to 68 followers, and now it's almost to 2,000. Right? It's nothing compared to some people, but I'm pretty proud of it. I got to celebrate those small victories. You know what I mean? It's important for your mental health. But the best advice is just start and learn and work hard and see where it takes you. Stick with it long enough that you can make a decision on whether or not it should keep going. I'm talking like maybe a year or two. Do not expect results immediately. If you have something go viral, hey, good for you. You've done something that a lot of people can't do. So, but if you don't, you're going to be in it for the long haul. So make sure it's something that you choose, something that your passion will not burn out. For me, it had to be Nintendo or video games, but really at the end of the day, it had to be Nintendo. I've been talking about it almost my entire life, and I never get sick of it.
What do you think would be the one attribute that you have that's contributed most to your success so far, getting to 100,000 plus downloads, etc.? Yeah, no, what's the one attribute that you think has attributed most to your success?
As far as like podcast downloads, I attribute it to naming my show the Nintendo PowerCast, and then Nintendo named their show the Nintendo Power Podcast. And when everybody searched for it on iTunes, they found my show and put it up to number 2 in games and hobbies. It got me a few bad reviews because people were like, "This isn't the official show." It has some people saying, "Hey, I'm glad I found this. I like it better." And so some of it's just dumb luck, right? Like, that's at the end of the day, that's what it is. But I mean, basically, like, luck is when opportunity and persistence meet, right? That's what you hear all these entrepreneurs say. Mm-hmm. And so I got lucky in December when they started their show. But you know what that did for me? When I went, whoa, we just quadrupled our downloads in a day. I need to put out a higher quality show. And I started looking into making sure it was mixed properly and put out at the correct radio volume with every episode, making sure the sound effects and everything were on point. And because you just never know. You never know when somebody with a massive audience stumbles across your content and then says, "Hey, you guys need to check this out." Then all of a sudden you go from 200 downloads to 2,000 downloads, and you're like, okay. So I would say put out as high a quality show as you can at 2 downloads as you will at 2,000.
Really great advice. This is almost the 10th one we've done this, and I can't even tell you the amount of people that have been just one day, someone stopped by, someone famous, they liked it, one tweet, one retweet, one naming convention slip, something happened, and then people were like, "Oh, this is actually pretty good," and then they stuck. Has that given you kind of a challenge, not only to increase the quality of your stream, of course, once you kind of got that big windfall, but how has that continuously challenged you to upgrade your stream? Was it like let's upgrade, week of upgrades done, we're done, or have you like kind of always kept that in the back of your mind, like that next leak, that next opportunity there, and are you always kind of trying to still get that better quality, or do you feel like you've already achieved it?
I don't know that I'll ever feel like I've achieved anything. I think that's part of what just keeps me grinding and looking for the next improvement. Like I'm looking at my artwork right now for the Nintendo PowerCast, and I'm like, it's old Super Mario Brothers 3 artwork. I love it, but do people think this is a retro show? Because it's not current. It's not Odyssey. It's not Switch. It's not, that I think about that kind of stuff. It's a continual. It's continually improving the best I can, right? Like if I'm not afraid of feedback, sometimes people may know what they're talking about. Other times, some people just like to listen to themselves talk. So you got to take what you can get out of the criticism. And, here's an example. One of my reviews said a solid fan show. Okay. Well, I was a very I just need to get content out. So we didn't have show notes. So we would sit down and I would try to just off the top of my head, figure out what to talk about. Right. And when I got that review that said solid fan show, from that day forward, I've never had an episode that doesn't have show notes that have multiple talking points, topics, so covering news and then covering talking points, that kind of thing. From that day forward, it's never changed. And that review went from a 4-star to a 5-star. And so it you want to be intentional and you want to make sure you're putting out. I didn't want to be a fan show. I wanted to be a resource. And so I had to step up my game.
That's a really good distinction. A resource. You keep harping on, maybe harping, good word, but you keep reinforcing your concept for teaching and to be a resource rather than an entertainment. It's a big difference as far as the approach and structure that you've applied. I really like the consistency. Again, I've given just that one podcast, the Gamer's Guide to Podcasting. I mean, you've got what you're going to tell them, what you told them, and you've got it listed out in so many different ways from writing to audio. Do you have video attached to that part yet?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Every episode goes out. You always want to triple, as many ways as you can double down on your content, you want to, right? So when I hit, we do the live show on Twitch, and then if you guys are rocking a Stream Deck, you can set it up to where I hit one button when we go live. It starts recording my audio. It starts recording the video, and it plays a little GIF and the theme song. And then I hit one button to put it back to the overlay, and we start the show. And when we're done, I stop the recordings. I immediately upload to YouTube. I burn the track down, send it to a website called aphonic.com that will mix and take any hum out and levelize everybody's mic. So if somebody was coming in quiet, it brings them up. If they're too loud, it will. If you've got stuff that's too loud, you need to fix that ahead of time, because you can't really fix that. That's bad news when it comes to audio. But if they're too quiet, this will fix it. And then I grab that version that comes out of there, upload it to Podbean, create 2 thumbnails, one for the podcast, one for the YouTube video. The YouTube video thumbnail also becomes the featured image on the website. I copy and paste the show notes for the blog post. I copy and paste the out of my notepad. I have all the links that need to be in each episode. I copy and paste that, set the featured image, put my tags in, put the title in, hit publish, make a pretty link so that I can tell people go check out n64josh.com/NPC113. And that's how people can find the show notes for the episode. And so I've got it down to about a 2-hour window of recording and uploading, and then it's good to go. But it has to be efficient, right? Because I don't even edit the audio. I have forced myself to be able to do these shows live and I it's a craft, right? I used to be like terrible at it, saying all the time and things like that, but you just work at it over time, and now I can pretty much knock it out every time. There are a few times here and there that somebody might say, like, we try to keep everything family friendly, so I may have to go in and throw like a Mario coin if somebody slips up or whatever. Yeah. And that's just because I have nephews and stuff that want to be able to watch the content. So I just that's the reason for it. But yeah, it's a craft. Like, you're not. If I go back and watch old videos and I'm like, oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. But you won't learn if you don't start. And it's one of the illustrations I think I give in the book, the Gamer's Guide to Podcasting, is like, you don't go to the gym after you're in shape, right? You go there to get in shape. And so it's the same kind of deal. You gotta learn as you go, and you're gonna suck. And that's okay. Put your head down and work. Be grateful for the things that come your way, and celebrate those small victories. And don't worry about what you don't have, because it messes with your head. That's been huge for me, is trying to avoid thinking about and dwelling on the things I don't have. And it's been great for my mental health, honestly.
No, it's incredible advice, especially when the weight is on so many of us to have those numbers and stats to share, to brag, to show validation, and sometimes it just takes a while to get there. I really like your focus on mental health. That's really going to help a lot of people. What could you tell me then about, because you've achieved big numbers in downloads, you've achieved community, you've been doing it long enough, you've experienced a lot across the different platforms. What is your favorite accomplishment so far in what you've done?
Favorite accomplishment? I mean, getting the invite to Destiny 2 back in the Lootcast days was I mean, I live in Bungie's backyard, so I'd never, like, I didn't get invited to come see the studio or anything like that, really, but getting that invite to fly down to LA was like, are you serious? That was pretty surreal. And seeing different YouTubers and Twitch streamers and stuff with just like massive audiences there. Like I believe her name is, I think it's SS Sniper Wolf, I think. She was sitting right in front of me. I didn't even know who she was, because, like I said, I don't consume a lot of content. And then somebody was like, she tweeted something early that she wasn't supposed to, so the place was all kind of upset. And I'm like, I don't even know who this person is, right? And then look, and she's got like, a million subscribers or something. It's like, oh wow, it was crazy. Little old me is here, and it was nuts, man. It was nuts.
It's got to feel a little bit like the Oscars or something, you kind of walk in, everyone around you's famous, and people are taking pictures.
Yeah, it was crazy. You're probably familiar with like the Destiny Community Podcast. I sat with those guys, and people kept asking me if I was Tefty because of my beard and everything. And we're like right next to him. I'm like, no, he's actually right here.
That's Tefty. That's cool to be part of that community and be in the same room as them. Yeah, I'd be very proud of that. That's so cool. What do you, out of that time, has there ever been a moment maybe where things haven't gone maybe to the way that you would have wanted them? Maybe something that you could classify as your biggest learning experience?
I mean, ending the Lootcast was a huge learning experience, right? I mean, I had built a clan around that, which was a really tight group of guys in the Loot clan and guys and gals. And it was like, you always think, if I got to just keep pressing on, right? And a lot of times you'll get the question from people that are new at this or just learning about it, like, how do you know when it's time to quit? And you kind of just know. I was watching downloads drop. We were trying to pivot the show into adding like streaming tips and things like that, but like the audience wasn't really there for that. And we probably could have kept going on that route, but at some point I'm like, I think it's time to move on. And that was a really tough decision to make. It took months of kind of just watching numbers and just examining the content and realizing that, like, and then having the Nintendo stuff taking off at the same time, they overlapped. and seeing stuff really start to go, I was like, I think it's best. Losing an interest in Destiny, was the other aspect of it. And so one of the things I did learn from that experience is it is tough to do a single game podcast unless you're talking about a game like World of Warcraft or something. And so I have since started one for Smash Bros. That I anticipate will not last a super long time. But while the game is hot and while the community is excited about it and stuff, I'm going to see what happens. It ranks, right, for the keywords and everything. And so if the community really gets behind it, it could be something that goes for a while. And if it doesn't, I'm fully prepared to move on to something else if need be.
Well, your flexibility through experience shows through. It'd be hard to give up so many episodes invested in a singular podcast when they still do have an active game like Forsaken. DLC just got released, so I can only imagine the agonization that you went through. Do you still play Destiny 2 though in your free time? You can't look back, eh?
It's not like a hatred for the game or anything like that, but I mean, there's a little bad taste in my mouth, right? Putting that much into it, and then, but like, there's no animosity or anything. It's just I don't have time. If I've grown a community around Nintendo, and so like I didn't even play Fortnite until it came to the Switch, and I knew I would love Fortnite. I love shooters, right? Since GoldenEye, I've been playing shooters, and so if it's not on Switch, I kind of avoid it right now because it's just that's where my community's at, and it's what I need to be talking about on my shows in order to be a resource, right? So maybe to a certain extent, I give up stuff that I would want to play in order to be the resource, but at the same time, it's not like I'm not enjoying it. I don't ever try to create content for something you don't enjoy, because it comes through and people will see through it, and you'll hate it. People won't like it. It's just it's overall a bad, and that's what was happening with Destiny. I was starting to really not like it, and so I was like, I have to move. I have to move on. So a great shooting mechanic. I loved like getting together and doing raids and that kind of stuff. So many good memories. My son recently picked it back up again. My younger son, we used to play a ton of Destiny together, and so a lot of good memories there and stuff. But right now, there's so much Nintendo stuff, and I'm really trying to get good at Smash Bros. Because we do a podcast about it. So that and Fortnite's got its hooks in me, man. Like it's really got its hooks in me doing those dailies.
It's got its hooks in all of us, man. I was playing PlayStation 4 for a little bit, got all of my challenges done, and then I was like, I have to start getting on the PC so I could stream some of this. And now I've got to switch it over with different mechanics going into Fortnite, and I just can't stop. Like all the extra challenges to get. Now that you're just like, what, week 9 or 10? Where are we at? Yeah, there's so much to do that you can go into any game basically, and anything you do is a challenge. It's just exciting. You're like, oh, I got the 3 for the explosion kills randomly. Anything you do now is still a challenge. So it's a really exciting time for Fortnite for me. I want to switch gears just briefly. At the end, we typically ask things like, what's your favorite thing of your niche? What's the thing that annoys you a little bit? But I want to pivot mine a little bit to you, because I know that you stream at Nintendo, and your major activity is Nintendo games, and they're kind of notorious online for being difficult as far as the DRM's concerned, the ways they engage with their community. I'd like to get a little bit of your opinion as far as somebody who engages professionally on Nintendo streaming games. What's your opinion on the way that they're handling maybe the ROM scenario, or some of the DRM structure restrictions they're giving to people who are streaming and hacking the Switch at the same time to stream things they maybe shouldn't have? What's kind of your impression of this?
So, I don't know. You may or may not like my answer here. I used to play in bands.
Please.
Okay, I used to play in a band, and when we would sell albums, the first time somebody walked up and their friend bought an album, and I was like, "Oh, do you want to get one?" And they said, "Oh, I'll just burn it from them." My opinion on like the whole ROM thing and everything else was like, yeah, if you don't own it, don't play it, right? Because like I got to experience it firsthand, and so I know there's the argument for like the preservation and you can't get these games. Like I understand that part of it. That part of it sucks for people that want to play it. Retro games are expensive now. You know, I saw Chrono Trigger in the box at a retro store yesterday for $300. So, you know, they're not cheap. Yeah. Yeah. So, out of the box for like 125. And so I know it's like, you know, some people want to be able to play those games and that kind of stuff, but being on the end where, you know, you just have your content given away that you've worked on, is difficult. So that's where I'm at. I'm like, hey, if you don't own it, don't steal it. That's kind of my thing. I'm not like a huge, like, I'm not going to like cast judgment on somebody or whatever. That's just my conviction on it, you know? As far as their videos, like trying to put out YouTube videos and stuff for Nintendo, like I just do it and I get the copyright claim. I don't have enough I'm really close on YouTube to having enough hours watched. I finally have enough subs to being able to monetize my videos again since they changed their policy. But for me, I'm just going to put out the best quality content I can. If I can't monetize a video, I don't really care. If people love it and they share it, that's going to be more important to me than the pennies that the ads make. And so I don't agree. I think Nintendo needs to I know firsthand people come into my stream or watch videos and they're like, oh, I'm buying this now because you put this video out, you know? So I know firsthand that they are gaining customers from these videos, from these streams, that kind of stuff, which it's probably why I lean a little more towards the Twitch side of things, just because they don't really have a hand in that. But at YouTube, you have to be there because you got to be everywhere, right? And you never know which one of those games that you put out, one of those videos, is going to rank. My Stardew Valley review has like 20-some thousand views, where most of my videos get like 30 views, you know? So you just never know when something's going to take off. So I say just do it, and, you know, hopefully it gets shared. Hopefully it adds value and you gain somebody in your community.
Well, I hope that you always manage to avoid the strong arm of Nintendo's power over online content creation. They've been able to impact some people that we talk with, and it is unforgiving and swift. So I hope that you get to still monetize your videos, because I do like the concepts behind why you're doing it. You deserve monetization there. So best of luck in the gamble. That is the content.
Right. For me, I'm of the mentality that it's like, as nice as monetization would be for the videos, if I can continue putting out my own digital products, that extra monetization from videos and things like that would just be more of a bonus. You know what I mean? So I've yet to be at the point where it's like, it's where I haven't been affected by it nearly as bad as some of these other creators that have to either sign up for Nintendo's creator program and give a percentage of their already small ad revenue, or just have videos taken, all the monetization taken away altogether. So I definitely feel for those people. I guess it's a benefit of being like late to the game or getting into Nintendo stuff only within the past year and a half or whatever, that I can see how to navigate it.
Okay, that was really insightful, actually, from your point of view. I didn't realize that there was that kind of little middle ground right there where you can kind of create content without necessarily getting attacked by Nintendo necessarily. There's that kind of that middle ground of content generation where they're not quite upset yet. As far as like
if it's not a first party Nintendo title, it's the first party Nintendo titles that get hit the worst. But like that Messenger game I was playing, or Fortnite on the Switch, none of that is affected by, like, your videos won't be affected at all. But for people that like strictly make Smash Bros content or strictly Animal Crossing or something like that, like that's super tough.
Yeah, can only imagine how it's impacting our friends like Nairo over there. They're fighting, but they're basically just playing the game, right? That's a big line in the sand. All right, well, it's going to be exciting to see how that works out. Josh, the last thing I got for you is going to be kind of a softball question. You don't feel obligated to say the beautiful chair that you're sitting in, but a lot of people have a lot of emotions behind their peripherals in this sector. You touch them a lot, you interact with them a lot, they break on you a lot. But what's the one that you love the most?
What peripheral do I love the most? Boy, that's a good question. I mean, I'm a collector, right? I have a big retro collection. I don't know if you can see in the video behind me, but in that closet is a bunch of amiibo that are all in their box still. I'll hold up this controller right here. This is the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 controller for the Switch, which is pretty hard to find. So I mean, I definitely love that thing. It also has the improved D-pad over the original Pro controller, so that's a bonus. But no, like, being completely honest, I do love this chair, and I'm not just trying to blow smoke here. I had an office chair before. I'd never had a gaming chair before. I'd sat in some and stuff, so like Guardian Con and different friends had them and whatnot. But this has been one of the best things for my podcast because it doesn't squeak whatsoever. So I can actually move while I'm recording, and I don't have that annoying squeak that I used to get from my old office chair. Like, this was a huge improvement for me just in that department, that it's quiet, it's silent when I'm recording, and quality audio is huge for me. So having a chair that's reliable and quiet is honestly, it may sound silly, but it's a big deal for me.
Hey, it's a big deal to me too. I appreciate you saying that. No, that really, we hope for reviews only half as good. So thank you. I'm glad that you enjoy it, and hopefully your community likes it too if they've had a chance to try it as well. As always, that's it for us on this podcast today. You did phenomenally. You're such a good talker. I don't think I could count the ums you said on one hand. You're smooth. You're flowing. I love Nintendo. I'm a diehard as well. Again, I'll go play Zelda tonight. I was just playing it all last night. Love your hat, by the way. I kind of want it. It's pretty cool. But Josh, I like what you're doing and why you're doing it and the kind of concepts behind it. It's very in line with what we're doing here with this podcast. If there's ever anything we can do to help support what you're doing, help share a link, get your name out there, cross-brand. I know you guys do giveaways. We'd love to do something with you sometime. Again, teaching people how to make money online and following these principles like the Gary V, Pat Flynn structure is basically, I live and breathe it. So it's just so cool to see someone doing it in a similar way, so dedicated in the gaming sector. I just can't say how much I appreciate what you're doing. So thank you again for coming down here today. And as always, if there's anything you need, please let us know. We'd be happy to make it happen for you.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.